Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
I'm starting to dig the Annapolis Library on West Street, man. Today we are here with Comacell Brown, whose name should not be a stranger to pretty much anybody. And despite us being friends and going through leadership Anne Arundel together, it still sort of blows my mind that you only have two arms and two hands, because you seem to have your hands in any number of different buckets. Yeah. Every time I turn around, there's something else with Comacell.
Yeah.
And also known as Sell Spitfire, and you've got a website which really sort of gets you started, but sellspitfire.com, and it's nothing crazy about the spelling there. But thank you for agreeing to come on, and good to see you again. And I think last time we ran into each other, you were working on a project, and elbows deep into paint and spray paint, and up on a lift and everything else. But you are a muralist, a mentor, a business owner, businesses owner, I guess, graphic designer, artist. I don't know, maybe you're even a BFF with Lamar Jackson. I hear you've got a little connection there, but it's, go that. But where did you come from, man? What's your background?
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. I've been following you for a while, since back on Twitter with Eye on Annapolis. Yeah. So it's been an honor to come here and speak. But my career dates back all the way since being a kid. I've always been artistic, had an eye for bright colors. Funny story, what really showed me that I was a good artist was drawing nude pictures on paper. And I remember showing my grandfather, and he was like he was surprised that I drew a nude person, but it looked so good. He was like, "You traced this. You had to trace it." I was like, "No, I took my time and draw it." So when I seen the look of surprise on his eyes is when I knew I was really good.
All right, how old were you?
I would say I was about 6.
Man. You ain't seen no nude people.
I stumbled across a magazine, so I was drawing it out of a magazine. But yeah, it was funny. That was one of my best drawings starting out. And
do you still have it?
No, I wish I did. I might have to dig. We do have a cabinet at his house that has old photos and drawings. I literally have all of my schoolwork from kindergarten and first grade. So it may be in there, but I haven't dug through it in many years. So
Like get you thrown out of school at all?
No, I didn't take it to school.
Well, did you grow up? Are you native in Annapolis?
Yes, grew up, born and raised here in Annapolis. Beginning of my childhood, I was in the Robinwood community. Okay. And then once I hit first grade, we moved to Greenbrier, which is in between Newtown 20 and Bywater. And
right, that's right behind the Safeway?
Yep, behind the Safeway. So many people growing up with me, they know me from being in Greenbrier. And, that's
very cool. So you weren't really drawn into being creative. You were just sort of there.
Yeah.
It was always there. So once you realized that you had the artistic ability and the creativity ability, there's a word, creativity ability, but the, creativeness, were there training? Have you done any training, or are you purely self-taught?
Starting out, I was self-taught. I also went to the Salvation Army after-school program for most of elementary school. And the really cool thing about the Salvation Army is every day we got there, they had something cool and productive for us to do. A lot of that was art-based. And if it wasn't art-based, it was sports-related. But dealing with art, we used to paint T-shirts there, coloring pages, origami, GIMP. Anything artistic or creative we could do, I like to sit down and put my hands into, and maybe that's why I'm like that now as an adult, putting my hands in all different types of art.
Are you strictly relegated to? I know a lot of it is digital now at this point, and you grew up in a digital world. But are you strictly a visual artist? I guess.
Yeah, I would say that. I attended the Art Institute of Atlanta right out of high school. I moved to Atlanta when I was 17 years old, mainly in graphics, so websites, logos, stationery artwork. That's my forte, but that all kind of trickles into the other artwork that I do as well, from murals and clothing design as well.
So the logos and the stationery and stuff like that. I mean, that's the bread and butter, I guess, at this point. And that's all. I mean, if we wanted to work that with sellspitfire.com is where to go on that.
Yep. I would say during the summer is when I really do a lot of the murals because of the weather. It's a lot easier to paint when it's hot.
Something more comfortable in it.
And now that we're going into the fall, I still do a bit of murals, but it's mainly indoors. So I do a lot of pitches to schools and after school programs. Stuff like that to still stay in the mural realm, but like you said, bread and butter is typically logos and graphic work.
Well, I'll tell you, you're hard pressed to go anywhere in Annapolis without seeing a little splashier color anywhere. I mean, I just came up West Street and Pinky's Liquor's got your mural with Carl Lester on the side of it, which was I was so thrilled to see that come to fruition. Carl Lester is just such a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
I never met him, but I mean, I can't count the number of times where I would be driving down West Street or maybe Forest Drive, depending on where he was, and it just brings a smile to your face, man. There's a guy that's got, I don't say a care in the world, but I mean, he's happy and he's doing something great for the community. I remember the great story when there was a new state trooper in town, and he was out walking the street, and everybody just sort of slid, and the state trooper says, "You got to get out of the road," and he didn't quite know what to do, and the state trooper slammed him down, arrested him, and stuff like that. Gets back to the barracks, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing, man? That's Carl Lester."
Yeah, you just arrested a legend.
You just let him. You just go tell him he can go on.
Yeah, I heard that was a big joke for that officer for a while.
Looking around town, I mean, you've got at the Breonna Taylor mural, which got a lot of international attention because you took the basketball court over there in Parole, and that was a collaborative between you and a number of people too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to take full credit for that. Definitely want to shout out Jeff Huntington and Future History Now and Julia Gibbs. The idea has spawned out when we did the George Floyd mural, which only lasted temporarily because it was wiped away by a hurricane.
Right, that was down in City Dock.
City Dock, and the hurricane wiped it in the water. I believe Jeff received calls immediately, and they had the harbor master retrieve it from the water. And I believe after that, Jeff said that they will be putting it into the Banneker Douglas Museum, but I'm not sure if it ever made it there. But literally 2 days after we finished the George Floyd mural, it made it to publication on CNN's website. And I think that was the defining moment for Jeff for him to really get the idea moving with the Breonna Taylor mural, which we had two locations that we were eyeing for that. The first one was the parking lot of, I believe it was Annapolis Middle School, but they had a new principal at the time. And she liked the idea, but she didn't want to take that on as being a new principal and that being something to kind of overshadow her coming into the school. So she ultimately turned it down. We presented the next idea to the Greater Parole Commission out at Parole, and they loved the idea. And, the rest is history. We were able to put it out there in a fairly black community, Latino community. So I felt like it was a perfect place for it to keep the politics of that out of the schooling area.
Well, certainly Breonna Taylor, I mean, obviously it affects and it impacts, and it's got more of a resonance, I guess, with the the Black and Latino community. But I mean, that's something that really should affect everybody. I mean,
I agree.
It's a universal issue that goes on there. And I mean, you mentioned the George Floyd mural, and another one that was somewhat temporary but is still permanent is the one on Forest Drive with Trey, that kid, he was a friend of yours, right?
Yep, he was my best friend.
Unfortunately, that's still an unsolved, or it's a half-solved, I guess, issue there. And that's the one right out in front of like the CVS and Little Pizza, that area there on Forest Drive. Now, did you paint that as well? Or?
Nope. Now, that is actually a great starting point of my mural career because I've always admired murals around the city, but me being an artist, for some reason, I never thought about doing them. And when Trey was murdered, I reached out to D. Ward because I know he had been working with Jeff or a community group doing artwork in Newtown 20 and some of the other neighborhoods. So I asked D to reach out to the artist that he was working with and to see if he could paint a mural of Trey the Kid, and it happened to be Jeff Huntington. Jeff heard of Trey's story. He didn't know Trey at all, but I guess from all of the news and publication from Trey's killing, he took on the job. He made the calls to get the county to approve us putting the mural in that location. And he said, I mean, that's your best friend. Would you like to come out and kind of help me with this? I kind of directed him on certain things and features to include in the mural.
The way he looks, or the look of facial an expression or something.
Even his hat. If you ride past the mural and you see his hat, he has on the St. Louis Cardinals hat. Me and Trey always had a thing about cardinals. You know, that's a popular bird here in Maryland. And whenever we would be out back of my backyard talking, we would see a cardinal, and he would literally stop mid-conversation and blow a kiss at the cardinals and said that was good luck. And not only that, but his uncle, Craig Wilson, who is married to my now deceased aunt, Deborah, that you met in leadership, he played for the St. Louis Cardinals. He made it to the MLB, and he was one of the first people from Annapolis to make it to the major leagues. So the hat has a lot of significance having that cardinal on it. And I also was able to add some words on it. One of his favorite quotes, which was, the love always overpowers the hate. You'll see that on the bottom part of the mural, kind of going around the silhouette of his body. So that mural means a lot to me. I didn't paint it, but like I said, I had a lot of input on it. And it's a lot of significance every time I ride past it. So
I guess so. Do you still ride past it all the time? I mean, you still living in the area?
Yeah, but and to end that, just taking part of that mural and seeing how Jeff was able to just sketch it out and make it complete, like it just really inspired me to take my art to the next level and put it on a lot larger canvases. And I've never looked back since.
Well, I mean, you've been part of the mural at Stage 1 or MC3, it used to be called the cultural something or other.
Maryland Cultural Conference.
They keep changing the names over there, but right there at Park Place in the Westin Hotel. Out of the area, you've recently worked with the Washington Commanders, and I said that like I am used to saying Commanders as opposed to...
When I tell people, well, before we finished the job, when I was telling close family members about doing it, I didn't say Commanders. I said Redskins. Because I felt like if I said Commanders, they wouldn't know who I was talking about. So then I followed it up with Commanders. But yes, it was great working with them. Outside of beautifying their stadium, they wanted to really kind of change the culture and just give it a new look and get more acclamation with the community. And, I was partnered with over 13 or 14 different artists from all around the DMV. I made some really good friends out of doing that project there.
That's pretty neat. Well, you were in Breonna Taylor's hometown, I believe, too.
Yep,
was it
Louisville?
Louisville. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we talked, you said that there was some vandalism on a mural. You did a similar mural to the Breonna Taylor mural down there, and there was some vandalism. You went down and touched it up. You've been in Harlem with Nike?
Adidas.
Adidas. Okay. Sorry, Nike. Sorry, Adidas. Didn't mean to say that. But again, doing that, and I during leadership, I seem to recall that you were like jetting off somewhere to do some other kind of mural. So I mean, this is like, as a guy that did not do murals more than 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. You're national, internationally, I guess.
Within 2 to 3 years, it's been a wild ride. Never would have thought I would have moved this fast at this rate, but I'm definitely pleased that I've been able to make such an impact around the world. I hope to continue the path of doing these great murals and telling history through art and just beautifying the nation, if I can.
And you've got other stuff too. I mean, you've done the resource centers. With the Annapolis Police Department, and you did both Robinwood and Harbor House, right?
Well, Eastport is done. Robinwood is in the process. The city's been waiting patiently for me to finish up the Arundel Center project to get back, because with Robinwood, the sizing is a lot different than Eastport, so we had to make a few adjustments. Also wanted to change up some of the wording, so that should be finished by the end of October.
You did for lack of a better word, an ambulance.
Yep.
I guess that was, you didn't paint that. That was designed and wrapped, right?
Designed in Photoshop. That's, again, me using those graphic design skills and layout and a little bit of illustration. I love to use the Apple iPad Procreate program to do stuff like that. And I actually just did a vehicle wrap for the library. Not this one, but the one in Severn. We're just finalizing a lot of those details. So you'll see that vehicle hitting the road soon as well.
Nice. What do you have? Like a software that says you plug in the style of vehicle?
When we get to vehicle wraps, I definitely at the beginning discussion, I like to make sure that I get all of the details about the make and model, year of the vehicle, because there are a lot of websites out that have templates of those vehicles. So I just had to find a template of the exact vehicle and kind of go off there.
And then you position your things where they need to be.
Yep.
That's kind of neat. Well, you've mentioned the Arundel Center mural a couple times, and I mean, it's been so awesome for everybody to see that come to life.
Yeah.
And nothing like a blank canvas. I mean, it really was. It was an obscure, essentially an invisible wall to me.
Yeah.
You never noticed it was there. I mean, there were a couple cars parked in there, and it's on the backside of the Arundel Center, which is at 44 Calvert Street. If you're going into the Gott's Garage, look to your left.
Yeah.
And I noticed the other week when I was driving past, I was at the light on West Street, and that just beams right up onto West Street as well. So it's not hidden on a back street. And this was something that the county and the city and the Art and Public Places Commission said that this would be an ideal place for a mural. And there was I don't say a public bidding thing, but a competition, if you will. I mean, you had to submit proposals to what you wanted to do. And I know with County Executive Pittman, I mean, his mantra has always been make Anne Arundel County the best place for all. And that was really kind of the only guiding principle they gave you. It said that, you need to take care of the inclusion. Mm-hmm. And so how did you get the job? How did this all come about?
Well, I was very excited to do the job, one, because of the size of the mural.
Is that the biggest one you've ever done?
Yes, 3,000 square feet. I think it was about 95 feet tall and a little more than 100 feet wide. So huge mural. I submitted. It took me a really long time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I was going back and forth about place and people. I ultimately decided to choose people. The one stipulation that the county gave was that we couldn't include any words. So it just had to be all imagery. So with submitting my bid, I was sitting back patiently waiting, just trying to hear the results. I think maybe 2 to 3 weeks after all of the artwork was submitted, I get a call or text first with me and somebody else on it that I didn't have the number saved. And they were like, hey, I think it was Lonnie. And she was telling me that the county were kind of split in a vote between me and Cindy when it got down to the final 5. And they were like, we're interested to know if you two will be open to collaborate. I had already been talking to Cindy about joining one of her art exhibits, which is Art Behind the Creeks. Right. So I was already in communication with her. So we kind of texted off to the side, and she was like, are you willing
Well, that's
to do it?
Cindy Fletcher Holden,
Yep.
whose 2 biggest murals, public murals that she has done, I think, are probably on Chinkopin Round Road on that one building. I don't know exactly what it is, but if you're going on Chinkopin to West Street, it's on the right. It's a big sailing scene, and also on the side of the Annapolis Maritime Museum.
Yeah, she has some really great work.
And if you go to any Glory Days, she does the artwork in there as well.
And during the project, I found out that she does a lot of Starbucks stuff in the area as well.
Oh, I think I did know that.
Yeah.
I think I did know that. And she does the Art Between the Creeks, which is sort of kind of a neat thing between Back Creek and Spot Creek, and it's in Eastport.
Yep.
And that took a little bit of a hiatus during COVID, but that was probably about 2 or 3 months ago, I guess it was.
Yeah.
The concept is that, we've got a bunch of hidden artists here, and let's bring them together. They bring them into the backyard boats, and right there, 2nd, 3rd, and the creek, and it's just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it was a different experience. I love the atmosphere of the place, boats hanging up, so it gives you that maritime feel, and the crowd of people was different than I'm used to, so it was great to be exposed to a whole new crowd in the Eastport community.
So they send you a text saying, hey, would you be willing to work with Cindy? And they probably sent one to Cindy saying, hey, would you be willing to work at Comacell? And they're all sitting there praying that both of you guys say yes.
Yeah.
So that's how you got it. Now, I mean, you submitted a design. It wasn't the same one as Cindy's.
Right.
Who won? Or did you combine somehow?
Yeah, we combined. So they left it up to us to communicate and kind of meet up. Me and Cindy were meeting up about once a week all the way up until we submitted the final artwork. I really love Cindy's artwork for the layout. Hers was more based around place and historical landmarks, and mine was people. She had a few people in there, but I just felt like her layout was so great, and it kind of fit my style of, like, if you look at the MC3 mural and the Carl Lester mural, my way of using shapes, you'll see that in the Arundel Center mural. But that was what Cindy came up with. And it connected with me and the things that I've already done. So I told Cindy, let's keep what you have and let's try to include the people that I presented. And then I also threw in a couple other ideas like the augmented reality part, the fishing rod, and different, like the night and day look.
Okay, so when you submitted, I mean, you just sort of submitted a concept,
yeah,
and maybe a sketch.
I did it graphically through Photoshop. So
right.
You kind of see what it would look like after it would be done.
Okay, and she did the same thing, but then before it was ultimately decided on, you guys collaborated and submitted a joint. This is what the proof is,
right?
If you will.
Yep.
Wow, that's and it's taking what, about 2.5 months to complete.
Yes, 6 weeks.
Get down there and check it out. Anyhow, you can't miss it. It's amazing. Now the mural, I mean, as far as the inclusivity, I mean, if you just, in the most basic sense, you look at it and you can see there's black people, there's white people, there's men, there's women, there's Hispanics, there's, professionals,
cats.
There's, blue collar, there's white collar, there's no collar, there's, everything. It represents, Anne Arundel County.
Yeah. You're
on there. Mm-hmm. And Cindy's on there.
Yeah.
So
we snuck that in there.
Snuck it in. What the hell? It's huge, man.
Well, the sketch was, if you would have saw the sketch we presented, they had people, but I'm not sure. Well, they knew it was us, but the people that saw us drawing it didn't know until you started to see the details. So when I say snuck it in there, like, you just wouldn't have known unless you were in those meetings or at the end when we finished it. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't know that was you when you were drawing it. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I've never painted myself or seen myself painted on a mural because Cindy did the details of me and all of the other people, but great. It's just humbling to be able to see myself on such a huge wall and to know that the impact is going to be great when it comes to bridging the gap between a lot of things here in Annapolis and in the county.
We've come a long way, and we've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
That's for sure. From an artistic point of view, I mean, that mural can't last forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you preserve that? I mean, is there a way to preserve that so that is there for a lot longer? I mean, you paint your house every.
Well, I kind of not left it up to Cindy, but I really leaned on her expertise with her having quite a few more years than I have in doing murals. And her suggestion was using one-shot sign paint, which is the best paint in the market. It generally lasts about 20 to 30 years.
Oh, my word. Okay.
Just naturally. But I think we may even extended that by adding a clear coat to it, which we did last week. After the mural was done. So
okay.
So now there's a clear coat over top of the mural. So now we may be looking at a 30, 35, maybe even 40 year.
50. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. You mentioned AR. AR is augmented reality. Yeah. What is that all about with the mural?
So in this new world of NFTs and the whole digital world and what we're going to virtual reality, I've been following a lot of that. As an artist, I feel like you should never be content in what you're doing. You should always be willing to learn and grow. So with doing research, as I was coming up with the mural, I stumbled across a video on YouTube with an augmented reality mural, which it's not many in the United States. It's a few. This mural had a 3D T-Rex. Well, the T-Rex on the wall is flat, but when the augmented reality is activated, the T-Rex starts to move, it roars, and then it ultimately jumps over the wall that it was painted on, and it hides behind it. So I thought that was so cool, so I started to do research and reach out to a few artist buddies that do animation, and I partnered with Maurice Taylor, who's a great videographer here from Annapolis, and I asked him would he be able to help me out with that. So we're in the finalizing stages of that, and it should be ready to go by signing day. But to give you a description of what it is when you get to the mural, there's going to be a sign with a QR code. You'll scan the QR code. It'll prompt you to allow access to your camera. You'll then point your camera at the mural wall, and then that's when the magic happens. You'll start to see the same mural that we painted start to move. So some of the Blue Angels.
So cool.
The Blue Angel jets will move. The heron will move its head. One of the boats.
There's going to be a big fish on the end of that fishing rod?
Yep. So you'll see the fishing rod move. It'll actually go up a few times, and the fish will plop in the water. And then one of the boats will actually cruise across the water and actually cruise off of the wall and go in the street. And you see all of this.
That sounds just like a long night at Ram's Head after a long night at drinking. Man, the mural's moving, dude.
Yeah, it's like a 10, 15-second video that'll loop, but it kind of gives you a better perspective of the concept. You get to see why certain pieces are looking a certain way, and then the movement of it, I feel like, will really connect with the younger generation. So I thought it was very important to include that portion of it and just give a digital footprint of the awesomeness of that. So it's going to be more so on the curb on the right
on the sidewalk side.
Yeah, so if you're coming in God's Garage on the right side in between the other county building there.
Gotcha.
Because when you pull up your camera, you want to be able to see the whole mural to activate it opposed to being up close.
Right up close, sure.
But the cool thing about it, usually on a mural, people just stand in front of it, take a picture. But with the augmented reality, not only will you be able to take a picture, but you'll be able to do small videos. So while the planes are moving in the background, you can actually stand in front of it and do a 10, 15-second video and have all those cool movements behind you.
Wait a minute. So I can do like the whole selfie thing with a video.
And the boats will be moving.
And so that's basically just triggered the video on my phone?
Well, you may have to, depending on if you have an iPhone or Android, when you activate it, you'll see the button there to either hold it to do a video,
right,
or take a picture. And if that doesn't work, you can always do a screen record because it'll constantly have that element in the back moving while you're in front of it. So,
dude, man, that's hella cool, man.
Yeah. So, I don't want to take away from the greatness of painting it at all. It took us a long time to really, and we didn't no spray paint used at all brushwork. So I don't want to take away from the integrity of doing the artwork, but I just feel like that gives it that extra cool element.
Well, it's sort of as far as inclusivity goes. I mean, it's merging young and old to a degree too on that, just from the technology aspect of that. I mean, you've got some, old codgers like me that'd be like, it's a pretty mural. I don't need that augmented reality. And the other kids are like, that's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Now you guys taped that all out, right?
Yeah.
When I remember seeing like the blue tape and everything else. So, I mean, that was how you sort of taped your sketch out and then said, okay, this is orange and this is blue, and then draw the clouds in and everything else from there.
And it's funny, I was kind of not against the idea because I use tape in all of the murals that I've done, but I've never taped a mural in its entirety. But it actually worked out to benefit us at the end because it took us about a week to sketch it, and we went through some rain clouds there. So typically I would sketch this with chalk. And if we would have done it in that way, we might have lost half of the mural due to rain. So by using tape, it stayed, kept the proportions, and it also gave the people watching an idea of what we were doing.
Of what was to come, sure.
Right.
And it probably gave you a good step to be, because you could stand back and look at it and go, oh, well, the fishing rod looks like it's too low, or it needs to be, peel it off and move it back. That's really neat.
Yeah, so most definitely it really helped out a lot more than I thought from perspective. And even when we just wanted a sharp line, a lot of the tape we were able to keep on the wall and helped us out with sharp lines. So it turned out great.
Right. Well, you said never be content in what you're doing. And you aren't.
Not at all.
Another little bit of news when you were in the news recently was you are the new proprietor or co-proprietor with Todd Powell of Art Things.
Yes.
And that is, for those that are unaware, actually you can scroll back and see a interview we did with Sky Vasquez way back when it was in West Annapolis. It was right at the end of Taylor Avenue, I guess it is at that point, right there at 1 Annapolis Street. During COVID, she had relocated that into Maryland Hall, and ultimately, just with the restrictions and everything else goes, it just was not able to survive.
And the pandemic as well. It was right during the pandemic when she moved it there. So all of those things kind of took its toll. And Todd called me. It's funny. That was like when we met through our first conversation on the phone. He was telling me how.
So you just get a phone call out of the blue, say, "Hey, Comacell, you want to buy an art store with me?"
Yeah.
Who's this?
Pretty much. I'm like, who is this? And he told me he was in LAA Leadership Anne Arundel, and one of the names that he threw out there was Miss Burrell Downs, and I call Miss Burrell Auntie. She's like,
she is a force, man.
Yeah. So when I heard her name, I knew Todd had to be official. But we actually met up for lunch a few times before I just said yes. I told him I was interested on the phone. But we met up for lunch a few times, spoke about some ideas, how we envisioned it, and it just clicked and it worked out. So we went on a hunt for Sky and trying to find out what was the cost going to be and what would the process be. She had a person that was interested before us, so we were, second on the list. But we ended up getting a call 2 or 3 weeks later from Sky saying, "Are you guys still interested?" And we pulled the trigger.
I mean, that's the thing with the business. I mean, if you ever sell Spitfire, I mean, that's your baby.
Yeah.
And, you're not going to sell it out to just anybody.
Right.
You look at what I can't pronounce his name, but the CEO of Patagonia that started Patagonia. Have you heard what he's done recently?
No, I haven't.
He's got a $3 billion company or whatever, Patagonia, the clothing manufacturer.
Okay.
And he's always been very environmentally and save the planet and everything else. And he says, you know, what I'm doing is I'm putting 100% of, it's still privately held, I'm putting 100% of the stock of the company into a trust to make the planet better. And it's going to throw off $100 million a year to do it.
Wow.
So that's who he sold his company to, because it was based on his beliefs. So, and, you know, I'm sure Sky turned around and looked at you guys and said, you know, you're better than, you know, the guy that's coming in or the woman that's coming in looking just to make sure it's a buck.
Yeah.
I need to make a buck. And, you know, this is my bottom line. And so when is this opening? What's happening?
So we're really behind with that because of, one, the Arundel Center project took a while for us to really get going. Some of the funding that I'm being paid for the Arundel Center is going to go back into funding art things. So that's been a holdup. But we're looking to open it up.
I hope Pittman doesn't bounce that check on you guys.
No, I hope he doesn't. But hopefully we should have it opening sometime in October. You know, it's been a little discouraging not being able to open in time, but we want to open it up the right way. We're giving it new branding, new colors, and we just want to give it a whole new look and feel, but still keeping it true to its roots of being a small branded art store and still keeping the Mona Lisa. So
okay, so is it still going to be called Art Things?
No, we're changing it to Art Haus, and you're the first person to get this news. So
to Art what?
Art Haus.
Okay,
but it's spelled Haus.
Okay,
so it's Art Haus and of Annapolis. But like I said, we're still keeping the Mona Lisa branding, and hopefully that doesn't wear anybody away. But we felt like it just, with the new look that we're going to give it, we just needed to give it a new name too. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What all will it offer? I mean, we're in Maryland Hall, which is an old high school, but it is an educational and performance building. That's the gist of what Maryland Hall is. I mean, will you be doing classes and everything else?
So for the main day-to-day operations, we'll be keeping it similar, just being a regular art store. But there will be a few new additions like candles and novelty items that you can pick. The layout and feel of it is going to have more of a home feel. So if you wanted to just come in and maybe sketch in a book, you're going to have a nice place to sit comfortably and draw and buy your supplies. And then after hours, we're going to do paint and sips and different instructional things. But I've already been painting in Maryland Hall as well. So anybody that wants to follow me or may have a child that they're interested in learning some art things, art instructions, you can either come through Maryland Hall or Art Haus, and we'll have different classes to offer you.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Congratulations, man. That's and what are the hours going to be? Do we know that yet?
No, don't know the hours, but more than likely probably 9 to 5, 9 to 6.
9 to 5-ish or something like that, and maybe a weekend here or there.
Yep. And of course, Maryland Hall is closed on holidays. So
Right. And school holidays too, aren't they? Don't they? Because they filed, because the schools district still owns Maryland Hall, I believe. So they've got a couple little rules there. Tell me about the other business that you own now is Sell Spitfire as well. Now that was the first thing. That's what started it all, I guess it was. And that's your bread and butter? Yep.
So started out with graphic design services, logos, branding.
So what does Sell Spitfire do? I mean, you've mentioned logos, you mentioned stationery and stuff like that. And where are your customers? Are they all pretty much local?
Well, not all local. I get most of my customers from online promotions, so Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. One of my biggest clients that you mentioned earlier was Lamar Jackson. That was for my fashion design services. So starting out, his was almost similar to a contest setup as well. I was forwarded posts from Lamar Jackson where he said he was looking for a graphic designer for his clothing line, Era 8. Somebody forwarded it to me. I submitted my resume. Got a call a week back later. They said they were looking at 3 or 4 different artists that they were interested in, and they kind of gave us all different jobs to pretty much complete. It was for a design called Pressure. So I designed a pressure design. They loved it, and they chose me out of the 4 artists. And the pressure design was actually the first thing to release. We did that and it came in 4 or 5 different color hoodies, and they sold out within 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we printed up a total of 1,000 hoodies, and they sold out in 5 minutes. And next thing you know, I had a ton of work to do for them.
At what point in Jackson's career was this?
This was during his MVP run, so it ended with me creating a whole MVP collection for him, which we did custom jackets with all of his stats from that year going down the sleeve. We did it Louisville College colors, the Ravens colors, and some black and white stuff to keep it all true to his history and how he got to this point. And it was a good ride. I don't currently design for them anymore, but I still keep in contact. I think it shut down when he got in a lawsuit with the photographer from Louisville who said he was using some of the images on his website. But
you got his cell phone number?
I was actually talking to his mom. My first time meeting Lamar was Super Bowl weekend. The Ravens didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but he had a fashion show that weekend of the Super Bowl to kind of launch his brand. So that's when I was first introduced to him, finally met his mom in person and kind of met the family and got acclimated that way. But it was a great weekend.
That's cool. Where's his mom live?
At the time, they were in Florida. I'm not 100% sure which city in Florida, but they were going back and forth from Florida to Lansdowne, I believe.
Okay. What's the future hold for you, man? Do you have any, where would be your dream? I mean, you're living it, but every time I turn around, and I don't exaggerate this, there's something public that's out there. And as we're talking, I keep thinking of other ones that I've seen. Oh yeah, you did that one too. And
2 years ago, I would have told you that I was trying to move back to Atlanta. The only reason I moved back to Annapolis from Atlanta was because the recession had hit really hard around the U.S. right around the time I graduated. So I came back to Annapolis. I started working at Navy Federal Credit Union as a bank teller, which was great. Never thought I would have worked at a bank, but I learned a lot about being professional, being punctual, and finances. And I ended up ultimately leaving from there, taking the money that I made and investing it into a lot of my equipment that I use today. So that dream has kind of altered a bit because I feel like I've just got my feet wet so much here in Annapolis and have made myself a household name when it comes to art. And I have so many things going on here that I definitely feel like I need to be here at least 4 to 5 more years. So as far as what the future holds, it's going to be taking Art Haus, branding that to another level, hopefully eventually taking that to Atlanta in 5 years. I really have a goal in my heart to teach a lot of my talents and share some of my resources with the next generation of artists. In my story, and I say this publicly a lot, that I really didn't get to this point until my late 30s where people actually know my name and what I do. But I've been talented, as I told you, my whole life. It really took a long time for me to mix myself in this crowd, but I think that was from not having resources or not really knowing where to go. So now I'm just offering a lot of that to the youth that I teach and hoping that I can create another Spitfire or another artist on the come up.
That's awesome. What would you be doing if you weren't arting?
Oh, well, I used to rap. That's how the name Spitfire was created. When I moved to Atlanta, I was there fulfilling not just my schooling, but I wanted to be a signed artist.
Okay.
Me and Trey the Kid, that was our thing. He actually moved down to Atlanta with me for 6 months.
Right, he had a record deal.
Yeah, and we recorded a whole mixtape together called On My Way Home, and it was about our experience living in Atlanta for that time and how we were going to be transitioning and coming back home. So ultimately, I started to see that rap was changing. The pace of the music was changing. You had a lot of auto-tune and synthesizing going on, which I wasn't a fan of. And it's just a whole new ball game with the younger generation. And a lot of it I didn't like. So I kind of tapped out of that market, did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff with still designing Trey's artwork and just being a mentor and almost a manager type role. And, I was rooting for Trey the Kid to get signed. And, ultimately when he passed away, I look at it like he passed the baton back to me. And I'm not only carrying on my legacy, but his as well.
Wow. Picking two careers that are hella tough to get, to break into, but you've done so well with the art. I mean, I've got a friend that's trying to break into the music business, and it's just tough.
It's a dangerous career as a rap artist now. Like, it's almost putting a target on your head because in the type of style of person that I was, you have to almost buy expensive jewelry or stuff that really make you stand out from other artists. And the end result is it makes you a target.
It's funny. I get a little bit off topic. I mean, you said you spent some time in Robinwood when you were growing up, and then back in Greenbrier.
Yep.
I have seen, and I don't. Rap is not my genre of music, but I appreciate the talent behind it. I remember I went to the Warp Festival one time, and my kids were like, "Why are you listening to this like screamo music?" I said, "Well, I don't like it." I said, "But I appreciate the talent behind it." Yeah. I mean, it's, you look at. I've seen a lot of these, we'll say, underground YouTube videos, and there is a ton of talent coming out, or that exists within Annapolis's, public housing communities. We've seen some of the underground rap videos and everything else that's going on, and it's just, what's it take to do it, to get out of that?
I think it really takes getting out of Annapolis or getting out of your comfort zone of your community.
Was that what it was, throwing you down into Atlanta going, okay, sink or swim, Comacell?
Yeah, and at the time I was there is when Atlanta was at its peak for music. You're talking about Ludacris really getting his big break, T.I. coming out with the movie, right. ATL. Like, I was there during all of that, like being a fly on the wall, Gucci Mane, all of the big names from Atlanta. I got to see them start. And by the time I moved from Atlanta, they were household names in the music industry. And I was just being a fly on the wall. So I was able to pick up on a lot of their methods, whether it was making music or just the way that they did the business. And I brought a lot of that back to my record group, which was Keep It Raw Entertainment. And I was just teaching them a lot of things that I was learning. So the advice that I would give to artists now coming up here is to get out of that comfort zone. When you make your name here and people know that you're doing music, you should then set your sights on another city to set up shop, push your music out there, because I feel like when you have out-of-town fans who appreciate your music or can relate to your music, they will push you a lot harder and faster than people who actually known you your whole life.
And your mom and your buddy down the street.
Right.
Yeah, that's for sure. Comacell Brown, man, you're a fascinating guy, and I'm still amazed that you only got two hands because of all the buckets they're in. But you want to make sure you're looking for lots of things happening in your life for October. I mean, you've got Art Haus, you've got the end of September, you've got the opening or the signing of the mural there.
Birthday on October 21st.
Yeah, it's you've got. I'm gobsmacked here. I mean, I got to figure out.
I have another exhibit with MC3 coming up that they're going to do official unveiling for on October 20th, the day before my birthday, which was called Veterans Narrative. So they partnered different artists from the area, with Army veterans that are either experiencing PTSD or different things like that. And we were able to tell their stories by painting guitars. So I was partnered with a veteran named Latia Smith. She is from Baltimore. She's been living in Anne Arundel County for about 7 to 8 years now. And I was able to sit down with her, hear her story of the military, the different places she served. And I was able to pretty much tell that story through the guitar. So on October 20th, if you show up to MC3, you'll see a whole bunch of really cool painted guitars. Out of the two, one will be auctioned and the other one will be given to the veteran for them to take home. So it's an awesome project.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That is awesome. And I love that Annapolis is and when you left to go to Atlanta, Annapolis was a really puckered little town that had no art.
None at all.
And now I just saw there's a new mural on the backside of the, I think it's the Guzzi Mall down.
So I think we might be at 55.
What's that?
I think we might be at 55 murals.
Is it?
Because the Arundel Center was 53 that Lonnie was telling me, 53 murals. So if you're talking about that one being a new one, and I think it was another one that was just unveiled inside of the Arundel Center.
Yeah. Sally Wren Compart.
I wouldn't be. It might be more than that, honestly, but it should be 50 that are publicly out there for you to see. And I'm pretty sure it's a lot more hidden. Like I've done a few in schools, so if you're not a student or you don't have a child there, you're not going to see those. But we might be at 100.
What's your favorite mural in town?
Definitely now in the Arundel Center because of the time. And
not necessarily the ones that you've done.
Oh, just in general.
What's the one? What is Comacell Brown driving around town at 100, looking at 100 murals or 55 murals? Which one stands out for you that you like best?
That's a good question. It might be between Cindy's new Annapolis Maritime Museum one, or might be, and this one I know has caught a lot of flack, but the Ruth Bader and the one that Jeff did on the courthouse.
With Thurgood Marshall and Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
I know that one has got a lot of flack, but I really like seeing that coming around the circle.
You know, I like the flack. I like the conversation on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, if art is making people talk, it's working.
Yeah.
And, you know, I go back to the tsunami mural, which really sort of started the whole thing, was... you know, people, I think, love it or hate it. I don't think there's a lot of gray area in that, but they're sitting there talking about it. It's like, okay, so what's that mean? You know, what's going on here?
Yeah. Another project that I'm working on that is so funny because I really found out how much it really connects to my family. I was asked early in the year to help design the layout for the new Robert E's Memorial off of Clay Street.
One of my favorite people.
Mine as well. And so I was really nervous about that because I'm so used to doing murals and graphic design. This one was a lot different. So I've been in touch with Eric and Shelly from the city. Shelly is a great landscape designer. She's been really helping me out with this project. But we just kind of finalized the design for that, and that should be going into construction next year. But the connection to that, my family was... Before Robert E's passed away, I had seen him, and he was like, hey, I got something for you. I was like, okay. He was like, yeah, meet up with me in 30 minutes. I met up with him. He had 2 pictures of my mom, who's deceased, that I'd never seen before. It's not many pictures of my mom, even in my grandmother's house. And he gave me 2 really beautiful pictures of my mother, and I just appreciated that so much. And he ended up passing away a few months after that. And last night, I was on the phone with my dad, and I was telling him about the mural. He was like, I grew up with Robert E's. He was like, me and him were like best friends. Like, so I always thought the connection to Robert E's was just through my mom. I never knew that he actually.
That's awesome.
So I told him about that, and he surprised me to tell me that his sister is, Robert E's is his sister's brother. They had different dads. So they had, Robert E's and my aunt had the same dad. So that just blew my mind. So technically, designing this whole memorial for a family.
There's a guy whose heart was 10 times bigger than his belly was. He's sort of like Carl Lester, and he's an icon in this town. I mean, he went through a rough patch. He was a badass. He was he was a criminal. But he got his shit together, and I mean, he was the biggest advocate for kids in the community. And I remember every year he would take people up to the Martin Luther King dinner, all the kids up, and he would shake down people for money, and everything else. And I told him he was. I kind of remember that it was the last year they had it before he got COVID. He was begging for, I don't know, a couple $100 for the last couple kids, because he said, I got to fill this van. I want to take this van full. I don't want to have an empty seat. And I said, all right, Robert, put me down for $300. And he's like, okay. I said, can I meet you somewhere and write you a check? Or he says, no, you got cash out. It was like, no, we get the cash in hand first, and then we'll talk. And
he's the man.
It was just so Robert, but it was. And I do miss him at city council meetings with he was a voice. Everybody to task.
Yeah, on the design of the medallion that I'm doing for the place, it says "a voice for the voiceless" on it. That's one of the quotes on there, and it truly was him.
I cry.
Yeah, I cries on there as well, and he's just he's been a great inspiration to me growing up. His advocacy for different things has ward off on me, and now I advocate through my art. So. Rest in peace to him, and I just feel honored to be able to honor him at this memorial, and I can't wait to see the finished product.
Well, keep advocating for your art. Keep advocating for everybody. Comacell, I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate you coming in and spending some time with me today at the library, and gotta keep looking forward to the future, man. Thanks so much.
I'm pleased to be on it. Can't wait to hear that episode.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.